Oh, hello there. Welcome to Reviews and Randomness. I am Valerie Vega, and we will be doing the review side of things today, and you guessed it, we'll be reviewing the new Jeep Gladiator. Now, since its inception, I know within the Jeep world, people were a little standoffish about its design, but now having been in it, seen it in person, and driven it, I have to say I kind of like it. Now this, like its predecessors within the Jeep world, still has the 3.6 liter Pentastar. That's been across the range for quite some time. There are big fans of this motor, people who aren't fans of this motor, and that is 285 horsepower and 260 foot-pounds of torque. Now this year they did come out with another motor option, which I feel like has been a long time coming within Jeep because there are a lot of complaints about fuel mileage and things like that. It's great to have another option. Believe it or not, it is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, and it does have e-torque. Now that is 270 horsepower and 295 foot-pounds of torque. So we'll see how that does. I don't know anyone with that model as of yet, but I'm sure it'll be out there and we'll get a glimpse of what that's like. Fuel economy wise, I feel like there was no other option. They really did need to throw something in there to mix it up, which is great. This model does still get, on paper anyways, 27 miles per gallon highway and 20 miles per gallon city. Now, I've owned 4 Jeeps myself. I have to say that those numbers seem a little bit off. However, this is extensive testing, not how I drive. So I will say we'll probably see that as these have been out for a while and people have to start getting them and driving them. But that's what it says on paper. Now this, of course, has 3 different trim line models, which Jeep has always pretty much had. The Sport, S, the Overland, and the Rubicon. So axles vary across each trim line. So of course, if that's something that you're interested in or something that down the road you might care about, you should look into that when looking into what model you'd be buying. A lot of people don't think about that sort of thing at first, and then feel like it's too late when you get into one. When you start switching things out, sometimes people like to start with something, say a Sport, because they know they're going to tear it apart and put different axles and tires and lifts and things. Some people like to start with a Rubicon, so they start with a beefier, stronger base. But that's totally up to you. Of course, the prices vary across the board. In the States, they go from about $33,400 to $43,400. In Canada, it's a little bit different. They're about $45,000 to almost $60,000. So I will say it is something to look at when you're either building one online or when you're looking at them in a showroom. There are things that maybe the average consumer might not need. So things like axles might not apply to you. They're great to have if you educate yourself on things like that and what it can do for you if you were to ever say, get into the Jeep family super deep like the rest of us and want to go somewhere where the trails are a little bit harder or go somewhere with obstacles. You might regret getting, say, a Sport right off the hop if you wanted to have some stronger equipment to put to the test if you were to go somewhere that would. So, something to think about if you were to look into different trim lines. It's not just, in the Jeep brand, it's not just interior, it's not just tires, things like that. Speaking of tires, obviously this model that I've been lent has some aftermarket rims on it, so pay no attention. They do come across the range of 17s and 18s, so again, pretty much everything within from Sport to Rubicon will vary pretty greatly. So there are things you can add on and some things that you can't, believe it or not. I know you can upgrade axles mid-range and above. It comes standard, of course, with 44s for the Rubicon. But if you were to add the limited slip, I know that you can upgrade your axles as well, which have a different gear ratio as well. It's 4.1. All these things, so many things to think about, things that you can upgrade and things that you can't. Always great to ask a lot of questions at the dealership. If you were looking for certain things, they might not even be available on the model that you want. Not complicated that way, but there is so many options. As most of us already know, it's one of the most customizable vehicles on the road. So great for the people that want to do that, and maybe confusing for some that don't. Now this has a 5-foot box, so I know a lot of people that like the Gladiator originally, also that like this version, are a little bit maybe put off by the size of the box. Now, if you needed a full-size truck, I fully understand that, but there is some benefits to this as well. There hasn't been a whole lot of storage in the Jeep world for a long time, so it's nice to have that if that's what you were looking for. Also, nice to have just some sort of variation across the models that we've been given the past couple of years. Fiat definitely has some sort of influence here. The design is quite a bit different. I mean, it looks generally the same. I'd say to the untrained eye, it looks generally the same. But to Jeep people, there were some rumblings, I'll say, at first about things like what the grille looks like. People loved, and some, I guess, didn't love, having the turn signals back on the fender flares, that kind of stuff. Huge to us. The average consumer might not care at all. Things like the top. This one comes with a really nice tonneau cover, optional of course. There are just certain features about this that either weren't available or, I mean, I feel like people within the Jeep community might not care about, but they are catering to a whole other demographic now, bringing in new customers, because this is maybe a little bit more user-friendly. The interior is definitely prettier, which I will say, I never needed that, but now that I've seen it, I kind of like it. So this one does have a steel rear bumper as well, and an optional steel front bumper. So, I mean, that's a thing. I did actually always have sort of a reservation about Jeeps over the years. Things like that are some of the first things we switch out, of course, are the bumpers, suspension, tires, because protection-wise, that's always been a thing. I don't want a plastic bumper with just a shield underneath. And with this, I know this model, people were worried about things like approach and departure angle. Kind of a big deal if you were to take this off-road. So people were testing it. I know people were stripping it of the bumpers just to have a little bit better departure angle. They were comparing it a lot to the Tacoma. Fair comparison. And we've seen it on the trail a little bit so far, and I think it's been doing well. I guess we'll see the harder it's tested. Now this comes with a 3-piece hardtop, just like JLU, JK. This is also, I mean, the Freedom panels, if you don't know what Freedom panels are, it's the 2 sections right above the driver and passenger, come right out. They're completely separate from the rest of the top. They do bolt in so that they're super secure when they're on. But they're so great if you just you have a minute, you want to rip the top off, you're maybe by yourself and you can't do the entire top, or you have nowhere to store it. It's such a nice option to be able to take that off and have your own just mini convertible above you. You can also get netting for across there as well, so you can have that not be fully open, maybe the sun not blasting on you, and maybe not bugs, depending where you're from. So Jeep does boast quite a few new features on this model. Across the range, JL as well, they've actually come out with quite a few lighter components, magnesium swing gate on the JL, and a lot of lighter components on this as well. There's some aluminum I've heard some complaints about, but they are just trying to increase fuel economy, but also make it easier to take things off, like the doors, the roof. Whether or not those stand the test of time, I guess we will see. But it is nice, especially if you're by yourself, if you have the option to, say, take the doors off, and they're lighter. I've had trouble in recent years with mine. Definitely almost dropped them more than once. So it's really nice that they're thinking of those things, but also saving weight while they're doing it. So win for them, win for them. Now this model, like I said, comes with the fender flares, turn signals, again, which is an homage to older models. They do say that the front end is an homage to the CJ. I don't see it. I mean, it's totally, I guess, up to you, your perception. The slanted grille was put in for aerodynamics. Great. We need all the help we can get driving a piece of Lego down the road. So this year they've come out with Select Track. That's a 2-speed transfer case that does have a full-time mode. So that would switch between 4x2 and 4x4, depending on your traction control and your wheel spin. So that's awesome. They are thinking safety-wise. As with all the other Jeep models, this has, I'd say, far too many options. Now, there are quite a few people who don't need, say, the Alpine stereo package. Because this is a convertible, technically, and you take the doors off sometimes, or I do, I feel like it's necessary, but it's definitely not for everyone, so you definitely don't have to pay for that upgrade if you don't want it. But things like bed liner don't come standard, so you might not think of something like that if it was to come that way and the dealership didn't have it done. That's something pay for. Now, things like leather seats or steering wheel, heated seats, heated steering wheel, off-road camera, those types of things. Now, that's as per individual, of course, and not important to everybody. Now, I would love to show you the interior of this thing, because when I first picked it up, I was actually blown away. I had to sit in the parking lot for a couple minutes just to take it all in before I left. I get it situated, of course, and figure out where everything is, but also take it all in because the interior of this thing is incredible. And not to say that's not what I was expecting, but I hadn't seen it, and I was hoping it would be something like what it is. Because Jeep people, I say this time and time again, I feel like they deserved better. They deserve more for what they were paying for, but also don't scrimp on the design. Just because we're off-road people, we like things to be able to function when they're dirty or wet, or we want drain plugs in the floor, which there still are, by the way. That type of thing, I don't think we should still have to sacrifice on the interior. So I feel like they haven't. I'm really impressed. So I'd like to show you guys what the interior looks like. Come on! So, first impressions of the interior of the new Gladiator, I have to say, wow. Not only does it have absolutely everything, which I thought the JK maybe was a little bit lacking, at least the models that I was exposed to. I feel like they've really stepped it up in terms of not just functionality. The dash is so well laid out, but also still looks badass. It looks utilitarian like it always kind of has, but everything looks tough, which is what you would expect from Jeep generally, but I feel like that hasn't always been the case. I have always thought, even though Jeep people would agree, it's not something they need, I've always thought they deserved better. I've always thought the interiors could be nicer, could be laid out better, and I've always thought they deserved more, just more of everything. Not to say that half of us don't think when you add more things, that's just more that can go wrong. More electronics, everything being electronic, it's just more to go wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, daily, I just felt like we deserve more. And I feel like with this price point, of course, you're paying for all this, but I feel like this is what Jeep people deserve. Now, this is brand new. This is a new concept. I hope this all lasts and is nothing but a success for Jeep. However, I've never been in one before, so I'm still sort of blown away. The drive was incredible. This is the Rubicon, of course, so they do ride really well. They have absolutely everything. This is done up pretty much with everything you can get in a Gladiator. So I feel like maybe this was a bad one to start with, but now I'm spoiled, so there's no going back. This one, of course, it has a different exterior as well, which I'll show you. They've done it up a little bit. It's got rims. The exterior looks gorgeous. This one just happens to be white. And on the short drive that I had over here, I had more than one person give me either the thumbs up or I saw them staring as I was driving past. So during the first initial release of this, I know there was a lot of varying opinions, especially in the Jeep world, about its looks and also about its functionality. So things like the bed, or whether or not it needs something like that, or whether or not it was just slapped on there on a four-door. So I feel like maybe it's a hit among new consumers, which is good. And that's part of the reason I think Jeep may have done this. It's to attract new people too. It's not all about the existing Jeep community, even though we would like it to be. I'm not sure where this all came from. They do say that it's an homage, at least the front end, to the CJ. I don't see it. And it's definitely not an homage to the original Gladiator. So I kind of wish it was, but what we have got here, and I haven't even discovered everything yet, is stunning. If I had this one, I'd have to check the price point on this, but they're 50, 55, almost 60,000 Canadian, which is, that's a lot for a lot of people. I have had a $55,000 Rubicon, and that's a lot. It's a lot for anybody. So you're getting what you pay for, but I really do feel like this, I believe the 8-inch screen and the cluster and everything's customizable. I feel like it's just well thought out and just better for Jeep people. Whether you're new or whether you've been in the family for a long time, this is just what you would expect. For the price point that the Jeep has always been, this is what you would expect. And I wish this was across the range Sport Sahara Rubicon, but obviously they want you to buy the Rubicon, so this is what they've given you. They give you all the bells and whistles, and it's enticing. It really is. So I'd like to show you some of the exterior as well, and we'll talk about some of the components, talk about the upgrades, see if they've just made a JK, JL into something with a truck bed, and see if this is something you might not have considered before, but now that you've seen it, now that somebody's kind of walked around it and given you the skinny, maybe you would go have a test drive. Maybe it's something you would consider. Believe it or not, it doesn't feel much longer, of course, than JLU, but I feel like this is a really nice truck to drive. So I did sort of have to adjust my way of driving because I drive something quite a bit smaller now, but I felt really comfortable right away. And that's kind of a big deal, especially when you get in something you don't want to feel like it's a transport truck, or you don't want to feel like you have no control. A lot of people, especially for your first time in a Jeep, I hate to tell anyone that's never been in one before, a lot of times the ride is surprising. So if you get into a Rubicon first, that's not, try out a Sport first. But if you were to say get in one and you've never driven in one, people are sometimes surprised that the ride isn't softer. So it's got a unique feel for sure. This one I felt was very floaty and very, not bouncy, but like that. It was super comfortable though. The acceleration was incredible. I just expected it, you know, to be the old Jeep, and it's just not. Obviously it's just not. A lot of people, like I said, were worried because of the looks and things like that. And I know right off the bat, I had my own reservations as well, because the look was a little strange at first, but the same went for the JK when it first came out. I feel like everyone said that. The JL only had minor tweaks to it, so I felt like people were a little less against it, but there were still naysayers when the JL came out. So looking back on how people reacted to the JK, it's the exact same. So now the Gladiator is getting the brunt of all of that, and I feel like a lot of minds are going to be changed if you were to say go to a dealership and drive one, or whether you see them on the trail, which you're going to now for the next little while. A lot of companies are buying them up so that they can delete things and try their own equipment on it. Of course, different axles, tires, lift, like everyone's going to be doing that, ripping them apart in the next couple of years and then putting them to the test. So we're going to see it whether we want or not. And I know some of the burning questions like approach angle, departure angle, how this would hold up on the trail. A lot of people compared it to, say, the Tacoma. I think we're going to be able to see, I've seen some in Moab already, and I feel like they've been performing incredibly. So we'll continue to see that once people start stripping these and doing crazy things to them. But for the average person that may not tear this apart, let's maybe go over some of that so you can see what you'd be getting if you were to buy this and keep it just as it is. Okay, so tell me how much you love this. This interior, I feel like, has really given Jeep people, like I said, exactly what they always deserved. Not to say that the other interiors weren't great. They were functional, utilitarian. You could get them dirty and nothing would happen. So hopefully the same goes for this. Because this is the type of thing, like I said, because it's a convertible and because people usually test its limits, that sometimes involves water and mud. So you want components that are going to survive if you were to get them wet, or if you were to have the top off accidentally, not purposely trying to get them wet, of course. Also, if you were to take it off-road and you were to accidentally splash some mud on it, you don't want your entire console to be out of commission. I really feel like this design with the metal plates and bolts and everything in the center, it's laid out very smart. I love all of the new additions. There's an auxiliary or a USB in the console, kind of like with the Ram, and a couple different ones, which is great because Android, and an auxiliary cable as well. Everything's central. If you've never seen the windows, they're all central. You've never seen this before, they're right here. All the temperature, climate controls here, speakers and stereo system as well. Like I said, this screen is incredible. I'll turn it on just for fun, so you guys can see how big and beautiful it is. Check that out. I'm a fan. So it also has customizable features within the cluster. So if you wanted, say, a different color scheme, I know some people don't care. I definitely care. I love being able to customize something to me, and that's kind of what the Jeep world is about. We've all been doing that for so long. Somebody just getting into it might find that really exciting, and it is. It's the never-ending modification world. But you can close everything off so that these aren't exposed, which is fantastic. The glove box, I feel like, has always been kind of a disappointment, but this has quite a bit more storage than I think we're used to. This one has a leather-wrapped dash. The speaker system, I tested it a little bit on the way over. It's all right. I don't think this is the Alpine version stereo, but it is still incredible. I had some tunes pretty loud because that's how I roll. The steering wheel, I will say, I'm smaller, so I have to be a little bit closer to the steering wheel, and it doesn't come out as telescopic as I would have liked. That's probably one of my only complaints. I see this is as far as it goes, which is sort of disappointing for someone like me that doesn't want to be right up on the dash, but my legs are shorter, so, you know, short people problems. Also, everything is kind of central to the driver. Your mirror controls are on the door, which is, I think all of this is fantastic, especially for someone who is a driver like myself. So it's not all about off-road all the time. I live in the city, so definitely not about off-road all the time. So I love drivability. I love comfort. Now, I've always found the Jeep comfortable. I know people taking one out for the first time, I've warned some about the ride because it surprises some people. So this one rides like a cloud. That's completely different. Rubicon wood. Now, Jeeps, especially lifted ones, if you were to lift yours or put different tires on, a lot of the ones that come out now come with road tires all season, right? I believe they come standard 245, 17, or 18. And I like that for city, but of course, looks-wise, I don't, and off-road, that would be ridiculous. So, ride-wise, that is kind of a nice feature that they've thought about, but it is a very unique feeling, the ride of a Jeep. So, if you've never felt it before, don't expect it to feel like a Rolls Royce, because that's not what it feels like. This one, very floaty, but most Jeeps, it's sort of a lumbering, floaty, not Lamborghini feeling truck. So you're a little higher up, which I absolutely adore. It always feels a little different for a lot of people. That's not their thing. They want to be low to the ground. They want tight corners. But I will say the acceleration in this was very surprising. And I felt at home, even though I've owned a few Jeeps myself, I felt at home not knowing where anything really was, generally, right off the hop. So I love the layout of this. I love the leather wrapped everything. This is top of the line, so they do vary looks-wise across the range, but not to say that they're any worse looking, just different. This does have a push button start as well. That's all new to me, which I think is fantastic. They do have ESS technology now as well, which is stop-start technology. I think that's fantastic. I didn't feel that while I was driving this one. I may have the option turned off, but I think that's incredible. When it first came out, I had some reservations about it, but that technology has been tested now for quite some time. I know some brands that have had it, they've been running it for a long time, and it's been fine. So I hope that's great. It's a great feature gas-wise. We need all the help we can get, right, Jeep people? Also, all of the central controls here, you can push what auxiliary that you want, which is fantastic. I know my car is always searching for whichever one, and it always picks the wrong component that I have plugged in. It also has the off-road mode and the sway bar disconnect controls here. It's really nice having everything central, self-explanatory. A lot of people I know, if you're new to the Jeep world, would get in and ask a lot of questions. They'd be like, what is this? Why is this? I don't understand. So for the average consumer, this might be terribly confusing. But also, a lot of it, I feel like, if you were to do your research or look into what these things can do for you, you find more value in a Jeep than you would have. Another thing about the interior that I love, the grab handles. Grab handles front and rear right into the roll bar. I love this. I mean, we have all bought our own grab handles, but it's really nice to have, especially for the back. I feel like I've scared a couple people off-road in mine, and it would be really nice if they had a grab bar that isn't just, you know, the paracord. These are the freedom panels I was telling you about. I'm not sure how much you can see from there, but I wanted to show you just how easy it is to take these off. So you undo these and this, and you can pop them right off. No joke, the whole thing, check it out. And then you do that for the other side. And when you put them in, they overlap each other, and you pull all of these back into place, and they're secure and watertight, of course. So I've been a big fan of those since I was first exposed to them. Of course, things like back in the day, the TJ and stuff didn't have those. So when I first saw them, I thought it was the greatest thing ever, because I would always be doing these things by myself. So taking tops off and things like that, kind of a big deal when you're by yourself, right? So these features always been some of my favorite things about Jeep, and always been some of my favorite things to show people, because not only do people not know that they're there sometimes, but also it may bring you into the Jeep world quicker, knowing that those little, I'd say these are little, not Easter eggs, but little presents that Fiat, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep have thrown in. This one has some sound deadening, which is fantastic. I love this feature. I think everyone that has a Jeep loves their freedom panel. You know, this is a really nice finish on these leather seats. Again, this is optional. This color is optional. Cloth seats are my favorite, but these are really nice if you were to get something, say like water or mud on them. Always something to think about. Even if you're not into that now, you might be once you get into the Jeep world a little bit. A lot of us, that's how we end up. So that's the interior. Also, if you've never removed Jeep doors before, this little cable here, just take that off, and it has 2 bolts each, here and here, and you just undo those screws here, and these pins lift right out. This pin lifts right out of this, and you just carry the door away. Another feature that surprised me, and actually I didn't know about until I actually got into one, the doors have a stay open feature now. So if you know anything about Jeeps in previous years, you know that the doors used to swing and never catch. So this actually does catch, which is really nice. If you're putting things in the car, you're not being beat up by your door while you're doing it. Fantastic. I feel like maybe that was an oversight for years and years. Check out the back window, and I'll go back there and maybe show you the tonneau cover. This is the rear, obviously. I just wanted to show you what it looks like aesthetically from this angle, but also this one has the roll-up tonneau cover on it. Just show you a bit of that as well. Woo! Which is super nice. This tonneau cover, like I said, has kind of a velvety finish, so it is a higher end, which would be the soft top material as well. If you were to get the higher end version, tonneau cover as well, which is super easy to use, really nice, lightweight. The truck bed, I know that the Ram comes in this size as well, and it's not everyone's favorite because some people need a full-size truck, but I really like the size of this truck bed. If you were doing off-road activities, say, it's really nice for storage. Now we'll see, like I said, how it does on the trail with the departure and approach angles, but like any other truck that we've seen on the trail, like the Tacoma. I feel like they do well, so I feel like this might too, and it has been tested a little bit so far. I am Valerie Vega, and this has been more reviews than randomness. Today, I would like to thank Oakville, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Fiat for letting me borrow this Jeep Gladiator, and pretending it's mine has been an absolute pleasure. Reviewing it has been amazing. If you are in the market for something Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Fiat related, please hit them up. Oakpark Blvd in Oakville, Ontario. I've known them for about 10 years, and their general manager has been an absolute angel, lending me this and helping me with my own vehicles. My parents and my brother have all bought vehicles from them, and they've always treated us amazing. So if you are in the market, please hit them up. Tell them I sent you. Definitely reference this video. Good for a laugh, I'm sure. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Please check back for the JLU video. Hit the notification bell, like and subscribe. I heard the notification bell doesn't work, but we'll try it anyway. Thank you so much for joining me. This is definitely not work. I appreciate you guys being here. I hope I was semi-informative. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.